All right, so let's start like this. Welcome to Christopher Griffin College of Information for We the People. What is We the People? We the People are American citizens. What is an American citizen? Well, American citizen is someone who has the ability to vote, someone who is defined as a person under what the Constitution would consider a society. Now, I can get deep. Well, let me start off by getting deep before I get into what's in front of me. Do you know that you are defined as a human being, which is an individual? A human being, being an individual, can change their name every week. I can change my name to Monday next week. The week after that, I could change my name to Tuesday. The week after that, I could change my name to Wednesday. That wouldn't be a human. That's a person. So there's a big difference between individuality and a person. So Shell gas station is a person. I can sue Shell gas station as a person. The owner of Shell gas station doesn't have to go to jail because Shell is a person that can be represented in court. So when you are represented in court, you are being represented not as a human, but as an individual. Now, what gives a person dominion over you to represent you or to hold you to the letter of their law that you had no participation in making when they made their law? Well, when your birth certificate is signed at birth, you have given consent to be a part of what they call their society. So now you are what's known as a government agent, and you will be given a government agent number known as a social security number. That's how you get a social security number, to identify you as a government agent, meaning that if you go to work at McDonald's, you should be able to make whatever you negotiate with McDonald's and collect the full revenue in which you have earned. But by being a government agent, you have said that I am not belonging to myself. My person, the character who you define your name on the application being in Black Law's dictionary, beg, the original word of apply means to beg. But that's another story. So when you have begged on this application for employment, you have opened yourself up as a government agent who can be taxed. So when you buy a home or anything and you use a social security number, you still pay tax on a home that you're supposed to own because you are an agent of the state. Now we have defined what a person is. Now you have what you call sovereign citizens. Sovereign citizens say, hey, I'm just a human being. I don't belong to your society. So how could you apply societal laws to me if I don't belong to your society? I'm existing amongst you guys, but I don't consent to exist among your society with persons. I'm just a human being. It's more complex. They make it more complex every year to keep people from being sovereign citizens. In fact, the best definition of a sovereign citizen is a police. Police is a perfect example of a sovereign citizen. It is someone who says, hey, I'm amongst you guys, but I have different structures and laws that apply to me that can allow me to kill you and go home the same night and get some sleep and make up my story the next morning because I don't belong to the letter of the law that you belong to because I'm a sovereign citizen. You have already submitted yourself as a citizen by having your birth certificate signed. Now you can renounce your rights as a citizen, meaning you can give up your rights as a citizen. But now you open yourself up to broader spectrums of deportation. But then the question comes, how do you deport a person from America and their whole entire family is from America? How do you deport that person? And so those are those complexities. Now let's get into this college of Christopher Griffin with questions. Now I want this whole dialogue to have back and forth dialogue. I want all type of opinions. I want all the the trolls to come out, the naysayers, the pessimists to challenge anything that I've stated, and I will go verbatim and rebuttal what you have to say. But I will do it with careful thought. I just won't be rebuttaling just to have a comeback. So let's start. Let's get some of this knowledge going real quick. Let me zoom in. real quick, see if you can see this. I'm gonna try to read from the phone. It says key findings. Oh, well, first of all, let me explain what this report is. This report is a report on findings in Florida with the judicial system and how the judicial system, I'm going to bring forth an argument that counties will go bankrupt. So a county, works like a home structure. If you live in a home, you have a budget and how much your rent is, your utilities, your insurance. You have a budget on how much you live off of. Well, counties operate, and states and countries operate off the same thing. They call it a fiscal scale. So you have a fiscal calendar year in which you set forth a money that is going to be spent and used to operate, right? Okay, counties operate the same way. Traditionally, counties collect most of their revenue off of property taxes. So for homeowners, they have to pay property taxes, and the county collects those taxes every year, and then they use that as their budget. Well, with less and less people, with more and more people coming into counties and less homes being built, they have to find new ways to create revenue with more people, but they're still getting the same revenue off the same homeowners. So they have to figure out, how do I collect revenue? Well, the judicial system. I'm going to present the argument today that the judicial system in America, particularly in Florida and more so in Broward County, is only in existence to collect revenue. It's not about guilt. It's not about innocence. It's only about collecting revenue, meaning that if a crime is done to you, or whether you're the victim or whatever, and someone wants to sue you and say defamation or whatever the case may be, guess what? You got to go to court and you have to pay to prove your innocence. You got to pay the public defender. If you don't pay him, you got to pay a private attorney. Even if you win, you have to pay now court fees. And this is how the revenue is collected, because it doesn't say, oh, well, your case was determined that you were innocent, and now we're going to give you all the money that you sustained that you had to pay back. No, you don't get that. That goes to their pockets, all revenue for the county budget. So now I'm going to present the arguments, starting with the key findings from these people are, if you guys want to look this up, it's Brennan Center for Justice. That's BRENNAN Center for Justice. The Hidden Cost of Florida Criminal Justice Fees by Rebecca Diller. Okay, let's get into it. Let's start with the first finding. Florida increasingly relies on fees to finance core government functions. The legislature has added more than 20 new categories of legal financial obligations to the criminal justice process since 1996. The state has acted without considering the effects of the new LFOs and without examining whether cumulative debt promotes. Let me see, what's that right there? I can't even really pronounce that word. Recidivism, or otherwise hinders re-entry into society for those convicted of crimes. Meaning that if a person has outstanding legal fees, they can be locked up, not off merit of them committing a new crime or that they haven't been rehabilitated, simply off inability to pay those fees or those ties. So, and also, let me just state this real quick. They have been given the name cash register justice. The name has been coined cash register justice, meaning that it's not about guilt or innocent. It's about, do you have money to pay your way through the system and out the system? Which I have, but I don't want to spend it because it's not their money. Now, number two, the legislature has eliminated exemptions for the indigent, thus demanding revenue from a population unable to afford the payment. So when you consider that X amount percent of people that get involved in this legal system, which are black, are already impoverished, most people have an inability to even pay. So, and furthermore, a lot of people don't know, you have the right, are supposed to have the right as a citizen, that if you can't pay, you're supposed to be able to offer community service, meaning that Tom Harris or whatever, just a name, Tom Harris, can't pay his legal fees. He should be able to say, hey, Your Honor, I will go work at the YMCA 6 hours a week free of charge until this is paid out. But our government, our local government, doesn't want that, because it's not about rehabilitation or doing the right thing or morality. It's all about collecting county budget. So this option is never offered, because I've never seen anyone these days be able to do community service to waive court fees. Number 3, despite rising pressure to collect fees, little attention is paid to the cost of collection, meaning that it costs to collect fees. You have to track people addresses down, because people move often. People move from state to state. They spend more money trying to chase people by collection than the money that's actually collected. So it is not something cost efficient at all. Now, number 4, the current fee system creates a self-perpetuating cycle of debt for persons re-entering society, meaning that a person is trying to first of all, I'll give you an example. I know a guy who works with me. This guy works at least 40 hours a week. He's on house arrest. I used to make a joke with him. I used to tell him I never seen a person on house arrest with that much freedom. He can go to the nightclub. He go to clubs on house arrest. He got a band on and all. They don't violate him or nothing. As long as he pays his whatever custody people every week. So this whole thing is a scam. It's a money scam, because if he's such a threat to society, why doesn't he have to report back home? He's not a threat to society. He goes to work more than people without a band on. But yet they keep him on the band and giving him limited what he think is freedom, just so he can pay them every week. This is money being collected. And see, the thing is, we're going to get into that. I'm going to want to get diverted. Number 5, collection practices in some counties create new form of debtor's prison, meaning, adding on to what I was just stating, that some people never get out of these payments, because I don't know how exactly these probation things work, but sometimes if you miss a payment, a fee is added on, a late fee. And so now you just basically paying, it's like paying a damn car that you just can't pay off. So now you're a prisoner to your debt. You're not even, some people did all their probation and they finished it, but they ain't even finished paying it off yet. So now they're a prisoner to the debt. So the probation, which should have ended, continues until all the money is allocated. And the money, once again, is being allocated to support a county budget that is supposed to be supported by property taxes, something that doesn't even belong in the legal realm. Number 6, Florida routinely suspends driver license for failure to make payments, a practice that sets the debtor up for vicious cycle of driving with a suspended license. So now you've been missed a payment or something, and now you're driving with a, so this is almost goes under the fruit of a poisonous tree, which is something that is opening up a whole spectrum of new crimes to be wavered against you. Driving with a suspended license, something that would have never happened had you paid your debt, your financial debt that is used as county revenue. It's not used to rehabilitate you. It's not used to start drug rehab or to provide group homes for kids without parents or to provide after school programs. No. It's used for their own discretion. Number 7, Florida allows private, keyword private, debt collection firms to add up to 40%. So now we have a people that is not even belonging to the county entity. They're not even a county entity like the court. The court and the clerk of courts, you would think, are the ones who are levying the fees. Someone with judicial power. But no, they have an outside firm with private interests who can add 40% of what you owe to make their money. This is ludicrous, insane, and it is the personification of a kangaroo court and a system that is out of whack. I am setting forth an initiative that no one will ever have to pay court costs again unless found guilty. And I am setting an initiative that will prohibit prosecutors from threatening people from their right to a trial, because it is every American citizen throughout America right to a trial. But the thing is, they know 90% of people not going to make it to trial because they're going to use a tactic that is so illegal. And this is where the prosecutor office comes in. See, let's understand that the prosecutor is the chief leading law enforcement officer. So imagine if you were in court, in trial, and you have your lawyer, you see the judge on the bench, and then you see the chief of police on the other side. Imagine in full uniform, full decor, with their gun and everything, their badge, their tactical vest, whatever you picture as a cop. Imagine if there was just a literal cop right there, and he's the prosecutor. Well, that's what a prosecutor is. And the person sitting on the bench doesn't have more power than a prosecutor. I'll give you a perfect example. A lady stated that she was defending her client, a lawyer, and he fell below minimum sentencing guidelines, meaning that he didn't have to go to prison. He could have went to jail. She asked the judge, could he lower could he send him to jail? The judge agreed that the guy should go to jail. Guess what? The prosecutor said no. No. I set the standards. I set the charging document. The judge doesn't set your charging document. Your lawyer obviously doesn't set your charging document. The prosecutor, which is once again, chief leading law enforcement officer. So when you see these cops kicking people, black and white people, because we get so caught up, the media sways the narrative that black people just getting their butt kicked because it makes it easier for the white mass to accept it. Like, oh, they ain't us. No, white people get their ass kicked just as equally by the cops. They get done just as equally wrong by the cops. And they keep us with this divide to not know that we living under a police state of prosecution in which they look out for each other. Once again, like I said, sovereign citizen. They're living to an entire set of different laws. They're governed under an entire set of different laws. They operate under an entire set of different laws. It's a different mentality. And the mentality is that I am not going to be prosecuted by the chief leading law enforcement officer, but you will. That's why they don't care about a line on arrest affidavits. It's about making up whatever you can make up. And then the chief leading law enforcement officer who has a law degree, which means they know the law of deception, how to put the language, the vernacular together to issue a charging document under false pretenses with little recourse. Because when the last time you heard of a boss of a prosecutor? When the last time you said, you know what, I'm going to call that prosecutor boss for malicious prosecution? You never did it. You can even report a lawyer, a defense lawyer. My lawyer laughed at me when I told him I wanted to report the prosecutor. He laughed. He said, you got a better chance of reporting me. So, once again, we're dealing with people who are operating under a different body of law as sovereign citizens, but treating us as a mass as citizens. And as a citizen with a social security number, you are an agent of the state, meaning that as an agent of the state, you can be placed in state custody. Let's look at it now and in a different form now, because I'm gonna graduate from this and get back to the sovereign citizen part. What is custody? Custody meaning you're a kid. The state is your parent. No matter how old you get, they can take custody of you at any given time, as long as you claim your citizenship. Now, like I said, we all have the legal means to denounce our citizenship, but it would take America as collectively maybe 100 million people at one time to denounce their citizenship to get any real change. Otherwise, you would just have people being picked out, and they say, oh, you want to denounce your citizenship? And then they'll try to put us in Guantanamo Bay. Let's use Guantanamo Bay as a perfect example. Guantanamo Bay is in Cuba. It shouldn't even have been around. It's a way to say, let's take a person from the country, and then we're not going to be under U.S. law to what we want to do with them. That's the whole inception of Guantanamo Bay, that the law enforcement officials didn't have any recourse against them because the crimes they committed inside of Guantanamo Bay was not on U.S. property. You follow? So my question is, who are these prosecutors? And how did they get so much power? And what recourse do we have other than to start an initiative? That we have committees that investigate improprieties, investigate who they've been contacting, what are their social media accounts, do they have these fake accounts following people? Are they online themselves? Because if I'm a prosecutor and I'm online and I get into it with Joe Schmo, and Joe Schmo lives in my county, I can make his life a living hell. So how do we have, we need these things in place, and I welcome all the dialogue and all the questions anybody has about sovereign citizen, about being a person versus being an individual. Because if you ever read any legal knowledge, you will notice that it says a police cannot check your persons except under this condition. Once again, persons. What is persons? Persons is your identification form. That's why the police say, let me see your ID. Once you consent to giving your person the character, the name, because you are not a person, like you're a human being, an individual. But once you've committed your persons, that social security number is attached to that name. That gives them the right to say, hey, you submitted to our society and societal law. And whatever we write in context of societal law, whether you agree with it or not, you fall under that umbrella because you are a person. I can get I want to bring into the fact that you got sovereign citizens. Do you know you don't even need car insurance? Let me just give you a perfect example how this whole thing is a joke and a scam in America. You don't even need car insurance. If you have, each state, you can look this up. Each state has the amount that you must have in the bank to carry to not have car insurance. And then you don't even need it. You can legally ride without it because you got the money that covers any accident that you may occur. You don't need a license tag. It's so much hidden law. I know a guy, and I'll finish it like this. I know a lawyer. He was in jail. They locked him up because he got 40 people their houses back. 40 people who was about to lose their homes to a bank foreclosure, he got them back. And this was the simple trick that he did. He asked the people to go find the original deed. He challenged the banks. See, when a house goes in foreclosure, the way collection companies make money, just like I just said, the county outsources their collection because that's how they make money. They sell your debt. They say, hey, this guy owes me $100. If you can get those $100 back, you can tell him he owes $180 and you keep 80 and I get my 100. That's how debt collection agencies work. Well, same thing with houses and banks. Banks, from the time you set out a mortgage, or on a car, house, doesn't matter, the banks sell it. A lot of people don't know that. They sell it. The bank don't have time to sit there and wait for 10 years to collect all their money. The bank sells it to somebody else. And that other person is betting against you that you're going to default on your loan, that you're not going to be able to pay it back. And guess what they do? They don't got time to wait on you to sell it either. I mean, they don't got time for you to pay it off. They sell. So before you know it, your deed has been sold 7 damn times. And they can't even find. So what this lawyer was doing was he was challenging the banks. He said, go show me the original deed. Show me a title of ownership. And none of these banks could produce a title of ownership, which put an injunction on the foreclosure, which allowed the people to keep their homes. And so what the U.S. government did as a FU to this guy, because the government is not on your side, they damn arrested him for grand theft of 30 damn houses. And then he showed me his damn paper. At one point, he was sitting in jail with no damn charge. No charge. He didn't even have a charge. He was just being sat in jail in federal custody with no damn charge. Tell me that sounds like some third world shit, but he was sitting in sitting in jail for about a year with no charge. They didn't know how to come at him. And he's a sovereign citizen, so he doesn't have a social security number. So they couldn't just like put him in just keep him under state custody because he's not a child of the state. If you don't have a social security number, you're not a child of the state. State can't take you in custody. It has to be federal. So I open up anybody on to this dialogue, and if there's any sovereign citizens out there that want to chime in, please, you're welcome to help me out if I misexplained anything.